If you follow crypto, you know it feels like a total wild ride, right? You've got these massive price swings, new tokens popping up every day, and even the big banks are finally getting in on the action. It's just chaotic. But here's the thing, underneath all that noise, a much bigger, way more organized story is unfolding. And that's what we're going to dig into. We're cutting through the headlines to show you the global shift that is quietly shaping the entire future of digital assets. Okay, so let's get right into it. Every single day, you and we're hit with this constant stream of crypto news, and it feels like it's pulling in a million different directions all at once. It's this crazy mix of real innovation and, let's be honest, pure speculation. It can be incredibly hard to make sense of it all.
So on one side of things, you see these massive signs of mainstream adoption. I mean, look at JPMorgan, a pillar of traditional finance. They're now letting clients use Bitcoin and Ethereum as collateral. That is a huge vote of confidence, and it adds a real layer of legitimacy to the whole space.
But then you get the other side of the coin. Literally, you've got a major exchange like Kraken tweeting about some new token, asking if it's about to explode. This is that speculative energy, right? That's what drives so much of the market, that thrill of trying to find the next big thing before anyone else. And just to add another layer to this, we've got more and more institutional money pouring in. Grayscale, which is a giant in crypto investment, is now including assets like Cardano in its ETF, an exchange-traded fund. It's basically a basket of different assets that you can invest in. This just goes to show that serious long-term financial products are being built around these digital assets. And of course, there's always the backdrop of history. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around the fact that just a decade ago, one Bitcoin was trading for less than $300. This incredible growth is what keeps everyone watching, for sure, but it also really highlights the extreme volatility we've all come to expect. So you've got Wall Street getting on board, you've got speculative hype, new investment funds, and this insane historical volatility all happening at the same time. It seems completely disconnected, right? But what if it's not? What if there's a common thread, a foundational shift that actually explains why all of this is happening right now? And that right there brings us to the real story. The single biggest trend that connects all those chaotic headlines is this global move towards regulation. Governments and financial authorities all over the world, they are no longer just watching from the sidelines. They're getting in the game. So here's the crucial takeaway. The whole wait and see approach, that's officially over. We're now in the era of active rulemaking. Countries everywhere are building actual legal frameworks for everything from crypto exchanges to the assets themselves. So why is this happening now? What's driving this huge global shift? Well, it really boils down to three key things. First up, pure geopolitics. Nations see digital assets as part of their national strategy, and they don't want to get left behind. Second, the rise of stablecoins. These things are tied to traditional currencies like the dollar, which means they have huge implications for payments and financial stability. And third, cross-border flows. Crypto makes moving money across the globe easier than ever, and that creates both opportunities and, risks that governments feel they need to get a handle on.
All right, let's kick things off in the United States, which has recently been making some really significant moves to establish clearer rules of the road for the crypto industry.
Just look at these recent milestones. First, an executive order made it crystal clear that a U.S. central bank digital currency, a CBDC, can't just happen. It needs Congress to sign off on it. Then you've got the Genius Act, which sets up specific, much stricter rules for stablecoins, demanding things like clear proof of backing and regular audits. This shows the U.S. is finally moving from just enforcement after a problem to actually providing clarity up front. Now, let's hop across the pond to Europe, because they're taking a very different and, frankly, much more comprehensive approach to all this.
Over in Europe, it's all about MiCA. That stands for the Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation. The best way to think about this is as one giant unified rulebook for all 27 member states. It covers everything: licensing for service providers, strict rules for stablecoins, disclosure requirements, you name it. It's all about creating a single, predictable market.
And when you put them side by side like this, you can really see the two totally different philosophies at play. The U.S. approach is more targeted, right? It's creating rules for specific areas, which results in this kind of patchwork system between the federal and state levels. The EU, on the other hand, just built one single comprehensive framework from the ground up, because they're aiming for total consistency across their entire market.
Okay, so now let's head over to Asia, where the regulatory scene is incredibly diverse. I mean, there's no single approach here at all.
Instead, what we're seeing is a whole variety of different strategies emerging as each country tries to find its own footing. And this little snapshot really shows just how varied those approaches are. On one end, you've got Vietnam officially legalizing crypto, which is a huge step toward adoption, really driven by its booming tech scene. Then you have Pakistan, which is building its whole regulatory system from scratch to oversee a growing market. And meanwhile, you have these big financial centers like Singapore and Hong Kong, and they're competing to become the global innovation hubs by creating really clear but strict licensing rules to attract businesses. It's a truly dynamic and fast-moving part of the world. So we've seen what's happening in the US, in Europe, and in Asia. But let's bring it back home. What does all of this high-level policy stuff actually mean for you, for someone who's interested in or maybe already involved with crypto? I absolutely love this analogy because it just perfectly captures the shift we're seeing. For years, crypto felt like a casual neighborhood pickup game, very few rules. Now it's graduating. It's becoming a professional league. The players are bigger, the stakes are way higher, and now there's an official rulebook that everybody has to follow. So what this means is, if you're looking at a project or an exchange, there are now 3 absolutely crucial questions you should be asking. First, how is the token classified? Is it a security or a commodity? Because that determines which rules apply to it. Second, if you're using a stablecoin, is it actually backed by real, verifiable assets? Regulators are demanding proof. And third, is the exchange you're using compliant with your local laws? These are the new fundamentals. And all of this leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? Is this new era of rules the end of that rebellious, Wild West spirit that made crypto so exciting in the first place? Or is it the absolutely essential step needed to build a stable foundation for mainstream adoption and finally unlock its true potential? That is the billion, maybe $1 trillion question that everyone is trying to answer right now.